Shalom, shalom, family, and welcome back. This is Brother Maurice. We're going to continue with part number 12. Part number 12 with the truth about Moses, Aaron, the Levites, and a Levitical priesthood. Now, in the last part, we've seen that Moses went to the Father and he asked if he could be released from everything that was taking place with the Israelites. And the Father said to him, he says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." And he said, "For you have fulfilled all the desires of my heart concerning them." And he told Moses to go in peace. So what did we see? Moses did not wander with them for 40 years. And Moses actually went into the promised land. So what happened during this supposed 40 years? What took place with that? Well, what we're going to find is that the wicked, because of all the things that they've done, they were all over the place. So let's continue with the book of Remembrance of Moses, chapter 10, verse number 21. And it says, "And it came to pass that Eleazar of Aaron," so remember, Moses had a son named Eleazar, and Aaron had a son named Eleazar, but both of them were spelled different. So Moses' son was righteous, and Eleazar, the son of Aaron, was wicked. And it says, "And it came to pass that Eleazar of Aaron found himself in a hard place, because his brothers, who had been consecrated to be priests after the Levitical order, were unexpectedly killed doing mischief at the tabernacle. And immediately Eleazar was expected to fill that role, not having been called by God, but falling to the role of priests by way of lineage." So now we've seen that the Father said that this here priesthood did not come by lineage. Aaron was the one that established that the priesthood was going to become by lineage, the lineage through the Levites, because he wanted wealth for his family. Verse 22, "And he was completely unprepared, and his father, Aaron, was injured and not able to be with him or travel with the people. And Eleazar had no authority to intervene with his agency, because the holy order was not following with his people by decree of our father Anochocete, as it was written on the covenant tablet that Moses wrote the second time. And this was because Anochocete said that they vexed the Spirit of God. And Isaiah reported that at this time, in the pathway of Israel, the Israelites under Eleazar rebelled and vexed his Holy Spirit. Therefore, God turned to be their enemy." So when it says God turned to be their enemy, it meant that the Father was no longer with them. And it says, "And he fought against them. And then he remembered days of old of Moses and his people, saying, Where is he that brought them up out of the sea with the shepherd of his flock? And where is he that put his Holy Spirit within him?" And Isaiah said this because they had cast Moses out and rejected the God of Abraham. And the people under Eleazar were left to their fate. And their fate was to fall under the curses brought to them by their worship of gods like Ashtaroth. And they worshiped the gods of their choosing, and thereby found trouble and subjugation and exile. And because of this, Eleazar had no way to know how to work the element of righteousness in behalf of his people. And his people were unruly, and did not respect him. And they were destined to wander in the wilderness for 40 years without a way. And they continued to do so until those who were openly rebellious against the covenant of Abraham had all passed away. And during those travels, all those years, they were looked upon as bands of marauders. And the people of the land armed themselves against them when they received word that they had come near their lands and settlements. And when I beheld this with Yorm, my heart was broken, and I wept before the scribes. And I said, O Lord, I see a very great tragedy, because I see and understand that their oral traditions that came down through the people of Eleazar over time began to be found in written language. And the written language was thought to be seen as authoritative, and for many to be unerring. You see what happened? He's seen this written language was going to be authoritative and for many unerring. And that's why today people say that the Bible is perfect, because the Bible is supposed to be authoritative, but they don't understand all the mischief and all the corrupt things that were put into the scriptures. Verse number 27. And the written word described and cast our gentle father Anochseed as a warlike God. Isn't that what we see? Isn't that what it even says in the Bible? That God is a man of war? Let me read that again. And the written word described and cast our gentle father Anochseed as a warlike God who would help them kill their enemies, and as one who would kill his own people who were called by his name for disobedience. Now you see where this all comes from. It wasn't true. Does any father kill his children when they disobey him? Did Jacob kill Levi and Simeon? Or was he willing to include them to participate in the most sacred ceremony of his life when the law was put into all creation? And all kinds of terrible atrocities and terrible acts of wanton cruelty have been attributed to our father Anochseed. And he is our gentle and loving one who has the name Anochseed. And he is that great I am loving kindness. And my spirit shrunk back at the understanding of the enormity of this tragedy, because it extends much further than just impacting the lives of those wandering in the wilderness for these 40 years in that day. Because now, for thousands of years, untold millions of people have viewed our father Anochseed in those blasphemous terms and crimes too horrific to even think about. They have done in his name and are attributed to Anochseed. And I thought, oh Lord, how could this great calamity have taken place? What forces brought this about? Seeing Jacob was bequeathed the star of elder, so that the people of Israel could be his emissaries of loving kindness to the world, insomuch that all people could feel drawn to their father's love. And thus, they could come to a knowledge of a God who is love. And by their kinship with him, they could come to a full expression of their gifts of life that he has given them. And he has provided a sure pathway back to Eden, for any who choose to walk therein can be redeemed back into his presence, to eternity, to live eternally in the arms of his rich embrace. So now we see what took place, and we also see what happened in the scriptures. We'll pick it up on the next video. Shalom.